Husband won't get a vasectomy and it's tearing us apart. How do we make this work? I am not OOP. OOP is you. Throw RAPTSD vasectomy. Originally posted to our relationship advice. Husband won't get a vasectomy and it's tearing us apart. How do we make this work? Trigger warnings. PTSD, PPD, stalking, harassment, traumatic childbirth, sexual abuse, less than, and NBSP. Original post March 25, 2022. I've never actually posted on Reddit before, but here it goes. I apologize for spelling or grammar. We have just had twins. We knew we had only wanted one, but instead we got two. And I nearly died in childbirth. It was extremely traumatic. I'm now in weekly therapy for postnatal PTSD and PPD. I also have physical therapy from torn abdominal muscles from the pregnancy and much more. I love my girls, but it's been very hard. For the last 5 mnths I have asked my husband if he would get a vasectomy. I cannot get hormonal birth control, health reasons, and just the idea of getting anything inserted now, due to the trauma, literally makes me vomit. I am given laughing gas and anxiety meds just to get checkups now. And it just so happens that our twins were created from a broken condom. My husband's response has been, "I will. Later." Until 2 days ago when I asked him and he yelled that he would never get it done. We have not had sex since the birth. Well, once. But that was traumatic on its own. I asked him why, and he didn't have an answer and just told me to drop it. I told him we wouldn't be having sex again then, and he just looked at me flabbergasted. I've moved to the guest bedroom, because he's been flirting and trying to initiate contact with me since I said this. Honestly, it's his body, but I'm not sure I can stay with him when he clearly has no care or appreciation for what my body or my mental state did to bringing our children into this world. I love him, but this really feels like a lacking in his love for me, and I'm not sure I can forgive him for it. How do I explain to him that the idea of him simply being able to get me pregnant again makes my skin crawl and nausea to nearly choke me? That sometimes when he touches me, as much as I enjoy it, it gives me goosebumps. And not in a good way. I tried once before and I literally cried quietly into the pillow the whole time because the fear and anxiety was so acute. I didn't tell him this because I didn't want him to feel guilty. This isn't going away anytime soon. Maybe the PPD will fade, but the PTSD is something I will likely be working through with my therapist for years. How do I explain this to him? How do I rectify our relationship with this if we can't have sex? Is this even worth attempting to rectify? Because to me it really feels like he doesn't care about me, since I constantly makes it clear that he doesn't want any more kids. Edit. I was told to add this to my post. I cannot mentally or physically, medically have any invasive surgical contraceptive procedures done in the near or foreseeable future, as stated by multiple organs. No, I am not going to go any more into depth on my medical history or why. Yes, my husband knows this and have heard this stated by my doctors. I have also had a traumatic incident prior to the birth of my twins with a copper IUD that needed to be removed surgically. Edit 2. He will not go to therapy. His parents were therapists and it has left a bad taste for therapy. He refuses. Final edit. Honestly, I read a lot of responses. Almost all of them, I would say. And there were the middle ground people and the "you can't force him" people and the "your husband doesn't care about you" people. I wasn't forcing him. I was begging him for empathy over what I did and gave up to bring our children into this world. For a show of caring for the trauma it left me, and to know that he would be there for me in sickness and in health. He has stated so many times that he does not want more children, even that we have one too many now. I'm also not punishing him by withholding sex, clearly do not understand PTSD. Or most importantly, that my body isn't his. And he does not have a right to sex with me. I cannot withhold something that is no his. I'm going to take some time away from my husband, because honestly reading these responses have not given me any more insight into why he would be willing to risk my health and mental state to avoid a vasectomy. When I know if the situations were reversed, I would do that for him. And frankly have. When I attempted to get a copper IUD because he didn't like the feeling over condoms early on in our relationship, even though I was scared, and it left me passed out on the floor of the doctors from pain. And then 2 days later in the emergency room because it had done damage and I was bleeding excessively. This isn't the man I married. Or I didn't think it was. Otherwise I would have never risked all that I did for him. Or given all these years to him. And since this is a constant thing coming up, as stated in multiple comments and in my last edit, I cannot get my tubs tied both for mental, emotional reasons, and medical, physical reason as made clear to me by 2 separate obgans. And to all the men here telling me that him getting a vasectomy won't help and saying they if I leave him I'd never find anyone who would take me. Thanks. I'm bi. And I certainly would never date a man again. And NBSP. Relevant comments. Commentator. You can't force it, but you can absolutely say no sex or none without a condom. That's well within your rights. Although if that is the solution, is that a viable relationship solution? I don't think so personally. A broken condom is what got me pregnant. I could not imagine risking that again. And NBSP. Update December 6, 2023. I just found this account, so if anyone cares. Here's an update. We are weeks from our official divorce. It was a deal breaker for and a lack of care for my personal and mental well-being, and a disrespect towards what I'd given up to have our children. I couldn't get over it. He kept trying to pretend it wasn't as bad as it was. But inevitably, much like you all said, it was his choice. And this was mine. I am unfortunately considering filing some sort of restraining order, however, as he had been making accounts to talk sense into me through most of my socials. I actually hadn't reread my post in a year and got to the end and had a good laugh. I am actually currently dating a lovely woman. It's only been a few weeks, but we knew each other her from college. And just reconnected a month ago. It's going very slow. I have twins, but she's been a saint, honestly. To come back to my post's topic, it is life-changing for my stress to know that she cannot get me pregnant. Not that we've been very intimate yet. Anyway, not sure anyone cares, but there it is. I'm in a much better place than I was. I feel better. My twins are happy. And we've been co-parenting decently well, other than the social media thing. Edit. I think I'm going to step away now. But my advice: don't let your partners use you as a human shield for all the physical repercussions of reproduction. Partnership is a give and take of equal sacrifices. And that's not the case if he is all too comfortable for you to be the only one taking on the physical sacrifice. We do enough bringing children into the world. You're not expecting too much for him to be willing to take the same risks he expects of you. I'm happy and healthy. My twins are happy and healthy. Thanks for all your well wishes. And NBSP. Relevant comments. Careless Dentist 287. Man or woman has nothing to do with it. One person in the relationship is wanting someone to do something they don't want to do. And that something involves going under the knife and losing your ability to have children. That's a big deal. I does. Because on top of all procedures for us being more invasive, dangerous, and having longer healing times, we also take on all of the physical dangers of reproduction in general. I don't think it's insane to expect a man to take on some part of the reproductive responsibilities. Thanks. And NBSP. This is a repost sub. I am not oop. PSA. If you are a woman, edit, or trans man or non-binary, and considering getting your tubes tied, don't get them removed instead. Why? Because they now believe that a significant amount of ovarian cancer start in the fallopian tubes. I have stage 4 fallopian tube cancer. I usually just call it ovarian cancer because that is how it understood. Ovarian, fallopian tube cancer is one of those asymptomatic cancers that is usually not detected until late stages 3 or 4. Reduce your chances of contracting this cancer by having your tubes removed instead of tied. ETA. I am really heartened to see that so many people saw my comment. If I manage to save one life, then my heart is full. Stay healthy, you lovely women and people, in case you are trans or non-binary. After birthing 4 children, I told my husband that my uterus and all related parts were retired. I had spent 20 years being responsible for our family planning, and the next 20 years were on him. He could wear a condom. He could get a vasectomy. Or we could abstain. He had already chosen the vasectomy by that point, because not only had I gone through 4 pregnancies and births so we could have our family, but he had done the research into vasectomies versus tubal ligations and already knew it was way less complicated for him to have a simple outpatient procedure than for me to have the ligation. But then again, he has never planned to leave me and have more children with someone else. So it wasn't really much of a question for him anyways. My best friend's cousin, I'll call her Beth, begged her husband to get a vasectomy after her traumatic pregnancy, birth. Her doctors literally sat her husband down and told him that getting pregnant again would kill her. He wouldn't do it. Eventually, after much begging and fighting and threatening, they both finally ended up in therapy, both individually and as a couple. After a few weeks, the therapist convinced him to tell Beth why. Basically, what if I want more children? Quote, there was zero reasoning with him. He couldn't understand that he was basically saying, what if I want to cheat on Beth? Or leave her, to have more kids? And when she left him, he couldn't understand that it was because she wasn't willing to face death so he could have kids with another woman. What I'm most concerned with is when I attempted to get a copper IUD because he didn't like the feeling over condoms early on in our relationship, even though I was scared, and it left me passed out on the floor of the doctors from pain. And then 2 days later in the emergency room because it had done damage and I was bleeding excessively. Seems like he has always put reproductive safety on her. Ugh. Commenters berating her for withholding sex are disgusting. Marriage is not consent. No one ever has to have sex when they don't want to. For any reason. Glad she's found a better partner. Man or woman has nothing to do with it. One person in the relationship is wanting someone to do something they don't want to do. And that something involves going under the knife and losing your ability to have children. That's a big deal. Just like he has the choice not to have a vasectomy, she has the choice to get divorced and never allow a man to have sex with her again. Glad we have that sorted. Can we talk about how she was literally crying during their last sexual encounter and he either didn't know or care? Anyways, as a man, I think there are very few good reasons for not agreeing to a vasectomy in this situation. Like you had an abusive urologist in the past or something. Edit, I should have added that this assumes the man also does not want more children. But in this case it doesn't sound like that was communicated. Hell no. Someone who can't understand that you are freaking traumatized in sex is not going to happen any time soon. And if it's ever going to happen again, it's going to have to look very differently, is not worth keeping. My parents literally got divorced over my dad's refusal to get a vasectomy. Imagine being the guy who turns your wife off of dating another man ever again. Yikes. Seriously though, poor Oop. I hope she finds all the love and happiness she deserves. And a partner who actually prioritizes her needs over their own selfish desires. I couldn't fathom watching somebody birth my kids in a deeply traumatic and almost fatal manner. Then being too cowardly to get a snip. This whole situation is terrible. And so are most of the commenters. But one thing stuck out to me. I'm also not punishing him by withholding sex, clearly do not understand PTSD, or most importantly, that my body isn't his. And he does not have a right to sex with me. I cannot withhold something that is not his. Good for her for having that mentality. Holding her ground. And telling those people to pound sand. So many women believe it when they're told they have no right to withhold sex. To be fair, withholding or using sex as a means of manipulation is not okay. This is not that situation. This is simply a boundary put into place for her physical health and mental well-being. There's nothing wrong with saying, I am not comfortable with having sex the way you want to have sex. So, no, I'm not going to do it and I'm not going to subject my body to that. I mean, my God, people, learn to tell the difference in these situations. The thing that's crazy here too is, he never gave her a reason why he wouldn't do it. Not once. If he had, they could have possibly worked through it together. But when your partner gives you nothing to work with and shuts you out, then WTF are you supposed to do? It's quite telling that he refused to give her any explanation, which would have been the easiest thing to do, but then put forth great effort to try and reach her to talk some sense into her. Funny how the argument is, how dare you ask your husband to do something to his own body? Therefore, you must have sex with him regardless of your mental or physical health. Quote, he has every right to refuse to get a vasectomy. Oop has every right to say she won't have sex with him until he does. And if no sex is a deal breaker for either one of them, that's a good reason for a divorce. Again, the comments and their inability to view women's bodies as humane. Everything she did to her body because his pleasure comes first is not considered alteration or violation of my body, my choice. FK and MRA's adopting feminist slogan. Again, but you ask a guy to either take some responsibility if he wants to be child-free or break up if he's unsure. You're the villain. These morons want the benefits of modern culture and responsibility of a medieval man. This can't be stated enough. Don't let your partners use you as a human shield for the repercussions of reproduction. Men can't give birth, and since it doesn't involve them pushing a watermelon out of a Cheerio, it's not their monkey and not their circus. This was a marriage. Oop went through absolute hell and the trauma of it. If a partner can't do something small like a snip, they're not a very good partner. Part of it is that Oop brushed aside flags early in the relationship. This man not wanting to wear condoms and expecting her to have an invasive procedure. Amazing update. So glad she has a new partner and is living in a safe and respectful relationship. Brilliant. I hate the withholding sex as punishment comments on posts about men doing absolutely nothing to compromise with their partners. I'm so goddamn proud of her. And I'm so goddamn tired of the sentiment around this stuff being that she should just endure it anyway because him getting off is more important than her literal life. Good for her. I'm wondering if that condom broke or if it broke. He seemed so wholly unbothered by her getting pregnant that it being deliberate wouldn't surprise me. I'm also not punishing him by withholding sex, clearly do not understand PTSD. Or most importantly, that my body isn't his. And he does not have a right to sex with me. I cannot withhold something that is no his. This right here hit me so hard. Why every time woman refuses to do something is punishing the other? Like the male is entitled to everything. Can we just discuss the possibility that he baby trapped her to begin with? Broken condom. And didn't want to use them to begin with?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.